Over the last 20 years, with all your support, we've been able to not only launch the original MyPillow, but also the MyPillow mattress topper, Giza Dream bed sheets, My Slippers, and the MyPillow bath towels. But there's so much more. In fact, we have over 200 products, and I'm so confident that you'll love each and every one of them that when you go to MyPillow.com now, you'll immediately receive a free gift valued at $20 just for checking out the website. No purchase necessary. Get everything from MyPillow blankets, sleepwear, kitchen towels, mattresses, duvets, pet beds, body pillows, comforters, couch pillows, bathrobes, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And remember, just for checking out MyPillow.com, you'll immediately receive a free gift valued at $20. No purchase necessary. This is a limited time promotion, so go to MyPillow.com now.
From the heart of our nation's capital, here's Family Research Council President Tony Perkins.
Well, good afternoon and happy Friday. Welcome to this edition of Washington Watch. I'm Jody Heiss, the Senior Vice President here at the Family Research Council. Honored to be your Friday host, and we are deeply grateful to have you on board with us today. Coming up on this edition of Washington Watch, we've got a packed program. You may remember former President Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, which was one of several very effective policies that he had to keep our southern border from being flooded with migrants. Well, the Biden administration is reportedly considering a Remain in Texas policy. That might be the Biden administration's response to the cries of blue sanctuary cities like New York City, which have been getting a taste of the crisis at the southern border.
Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City.
Well, of course, that was the mayor of New York City. And, the big question is whether or not the Biden administration is hoping to do what they think might contain the border crisis by making all these migrants stay in Texas. I'll be talking here in just a few minutes with Ken Cuccinelli, who's a former acting deputy secretary of the Department of Homeland Security under President Trump. And speaking of crises, folks, there's one taking place around the world you probably are not familiar with, and it's being largely ignored, and that is the plight of some 120,000 Armenian Christians who are being starved to death right now because of a blockade. We want to bring you up to speed on that situation, and we'll do so a little bit later in the program. And the battle over parental rights in California continues to rage. In fact, yesterday, the Orange Unified School District became the latest school district in California to revise its parental notification policy.
Minor children do not have privacy rights from their parents. The bigger ethical issue is teaching children to lie to their parents. And no, just because children don't feel comfortable talking to their parents does not mean that they are bad parents.
Well, that was one of the members of the board, Trustee Madison Minor, and she'll be joining me a little bit later in the program. And I'll also speak with the board president of the school district that started this whole wave that we're seeing now in California on behalf of parents. Her district has been going head to head with the administration of Governor Gavin Newsom, which claims that her district is one that is hurting children.
If they want to violate the law and do everything in their power to hurt children, that's on them. But we will be there to stop them, to protect children, to enforce the law, to make sure that the civil rights and constitutional rights of Californians are protected.
Yeah, they're going to be there to help children. Well, that was California Attorney General Rob Bonta. And trust me, folks, we're going to set the record straight on that here in just a little while. And speaking of parental rights, the morally bankrupt Southern Poverty Law Center has been targeting parent groups like Moms for Liberty. and they've been making all sorts of false claims against them. And I'll be joined by the co-founder of Moms for Liberty and hear about what her group is doing to push back. So as usual, we've got a packed program lined up for you today. And as a reminder, as always, our website is tonyperkins.com in case you miss any portion of today's show, or if you want to check out some past shows. And also keep in mind that there's tons of great resources there available for you as well. So be sure to visit the website, tonyperkins.com. All right, let's jump into our first topic for the evening. In the absence of an effective federal response to the disastrous situation at the southern border, the state of Texas has taken it upon itself to do what it can do to slow down and manage the flood of migrants who have been crossing into the United States through their border with Mexico. Well, friends, this may be hard to believe, but the Biden administration is literally considering taking action for migrants to remain not in Mexico, like President Trump had done, but for migrants to remain in Texas. I mean, this sounds like something you might read from Babylon Bee. Can they really do that? Well, with me now to discuss this and more is Ken Cuccinelli. He's a senior fellow at the Center for Renewing America and the former acting deputy secretary of the Department of Homeland Security under President Trump. Ken, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always great to see you.
Good to be with you, Jody.
Well, listen, first question, can they do this? What are you hearing, this possible move by the administration? Is this for real?
Well, the reporter who got it was always talented at getting inside information when I was leading parts of the Department of Homeland Security. And he obviously still has his sources. So I definitely think they intend to do this, although this one is so obviously outrageous that simply publicizing it may defeat it. We shall see. If not, and they proceed, and by the way, Jody, you'll recall they may come out and deny it, but they denied they were trying to ban gas stoves too, and they proceeded to do that. But if they try to do it and implement it, Texas will be in a very good legal position to confront the federal government on this latest insanity related to their means of opening the border. And as you noted, Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, has finally, after 2 years, begun repelling people coming into Texas. They won a legal victory today on that subject. And it was against the federal government that's trying to stop Texas from protecting its international border, even while the same Biden administration is trying to contain migrant families within Texas. So a Remain in Texas program. And I liked how you introduced that. It sounds like something that would be a headline in the Babylon Bee. And of course, if you follow the Babylon Bee, they're a satire site for those who don't know. It's amazing how often their lunatic headlines become true, but with the help of liberal, crazy Democrats.
Yeah, you are so right about that. You can go back and just see how accurate the absurdity has actually turned out to be reality. So you're saying that this the Biden administration can do this. Now, whether or not they will would be, I think, a huge political risk. And Texas has been doing a lot, as you described. I mean, they've not only been getting no help, though, from this administration, they've actually been getting a lot of grief and a lot of pushback. So what's your take on the efforts of Governor Abbott in Texas in their attempts to protect not only their state, but the entire country?
Well, in his efforts to protect Texas, he ends up protecting us all. Well, honestly, at the Center for Renewing America, we were really pushing hard for more than 2 years for Governor Abbott to start repelling invaders across that southern border, and he refused to do it. He ran what he called Operation Lone Star, literally spent billions of dollars of Texas money without any effect on the flow of illegals into Texas or the United States. until finally this May, when the Biden administration said they were going to remove the Title 42 public health order on the international border, which made it easy to turn illegals back without having to go through immigration due process. Well, Texas has the authority as a border state under Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution to repel invaders on its own. And they simply declined to do that until this May. And they're still getting better at it. They're learning how to do it. But they started putting up the barbed wire. You all have seen that. They've put up the buoy wall in one part of the border. And there's a picture of the buoy wall that was the subject of litigation, including a court order today. The Fifth Circuit said that buoy wall can stay today, and thus making it harder for illegals to cross at that high traffic area. So Texas is now taking some real affirmative steps to keep people from ever getting into the country in the first place. And once you're doing that reliably, Jody, then you will actually see a drop in the number of attempted crossings. That's the kind of deterrence that's peace through strength at the border. You stop people from coming in, guess what? When they don't think they can get in, they stop coming. But only Texas is doing that right now. We will undoubtedly see shifts by the cartels because they control the traffic to other parts of the border, the New Mexico, Arizona, and Florida borders. Nonetheless, that will, to some degree, reduce the flow of illegals into this country. So for all the money Texas spent up to now they're really having an effect.
Yeah, absolutely, and good for them for taking that initiative. And I know you've been all over the southern border. You've seen it firsthand. I've seen it firsthand. I've been to every one of the 9 sectors, and from every perspective have looked at this thing. It is astonishing to me, Ken, how this administration, the Biden administration, seems to think that they're managing the border situation well. I mean, come on, give me an assessment, having been there yourself, having been in this role, give an assessment of their handling of the border. So
it's important to understand that what you and I see at the border, and we recognize as an insecure border and a disaster, is their intended policy. This is not a mistake. This is an administration where the radical left, the Marxist left, has the wheel of the Biden administration. To give you an example, Jody, Democrat voters, forget independents and Republicans, Democrat voters have disapproved of Joe Biden's immigration policies for over 2 years. Joe Biden has been underwater with Democrat voters who disapprove of this open border since about March of 2021, literally only 2 months after he was sworn in as president. So not even ordinary Democrats that live in your neighborhood and mine support these policies. Yet this is the intention. This is what they want. They want millions of people to come in. The plan is to give them amnesty so they will be grateful and can vote for more Democrats of like mind. And so you can see where that would go, taking America farther and farther to the left. And this was in the election bill, H.R. 1. You remember H.R. 1, Jody?
Yep. And I was heavily involved in that, yeah.
Yes, I know. And in that bill, they had language that ordered states to dump all adults, not citizens, adults, in their state databases, including, for example, legal and illegal aliens who get driver's licenses, onto the voter rolls. And they decriminalized those people voting in federal elections. So technically, it's illegal for a non-citizen to vote in a federal election, but they eliminated the penalty. Why do you suppose they did that? So that these millions of people could flood the polls and turn elections in grateful favor to those who gave them amnesty.
Absolutely. And it just looks like, and we've got to leave it here, but it looks like the Department of Homeland Security they have their eye off the ball. They're more focused on things like LGBTQ than they are with what their job should be. Ken Cuccinelli, always great seeing you. Thank you for joining us on Washington Watch.
Good to see you too, Jody. You have a great weekend.
You too. All right, folks, 120,000 Armenian Christians are being starved to death right now by a blockade. We want you to stay informed as to what's going on, and we'll cover that right after the break, so don't go away. We'll be back in a moment.
In recent years, Christians have seen an accelerated assault on not just our core beliefs, but their very foundation. Now is the time to build on that foundation, strengthen our faith, and learn how to translate our beliefs into actions that engage the culture around us. That's the purpose behind this year's Pray, Vote, Stand Summit. Believe and engage. Pray, Vote, Stand Summit is a national gathering of spiritually active, governance-engaged conservatives, or SageCons. We'll hear from Christian leaders, worldview experts, government officials, and more. We'll discuss important issues like the sanctity of life, religious freedom, protecting students, strengthening families, praying for our nation, and how you can impact America's future from a biblical worldview. Together, we can believe and engage. Join us September 15th through 17th in Washington, D.C. for this pivotal event. Register now at PrayVoteStand.org.
Everything we do begins as an idea. Before there can be acts of courage, there must be the belief that some things are worth sacrificing for. Before there can be marriage, there is the idea that man should not be alone. Before there was freedom, there was the idea that individuals are created equal. It's true that all ideas have consequences, but we're less aware that all consequences are the fruit of ideas. Before there was murder, there was hate. Before there was a Holocaust, there was the belief by some people that other people are undesirable. Our beliefs determine our behavior, and our beliefs about life's biggest questions determine our worldview. Where did I come from? Who decides what is right and wrong? What happens when I die? Our answers to these questions explain why people see the world so differently. Debates about abortion are really disagreements about where life gets its value. Debates over sexuality and gender and marriage are really disagreements about whether the rules are made by us or for us. What we think of as political debates are often much more than that. They're disagreements about the purpose of our lives and the source of truth. As Christians, our goal must be to think biblically about everything. Our goal is to help you see beyond red and blue, left and right, to see the battle of ideas at the root of it all. Our goal is to equip Christians with a biblical worldview and help them advance and defend the faith in their families, communities, and the public square. Cultural renewal doesn't begin with campaigns and elections. It begins with individuals turning from lies to truth. But that won't happen if people can't recognize a lie and don't believe truth exists. We want to help you see the spiritual war behind the political war, the truth claims behind the press release, and the forest from the trees.
Welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to have you with us this afternoon. All right, it may be a sign of the times, but there are a number of persecuted Christians in our troubled world, and those numbers just continue to multiply exponentially. And as a result, we just continue praying for our brothers and sisters in places like Nigeria, millions in Africa, those in China, North Korea, in the Middle East, and believers who are scattered abroad literally in dozens of other lands. But right now, we want to highlight for you the plight of some 120,000 Armenian Christians who are being starved to death as we speak. And with me to raise awareness of this situation, which can best be described as simply a genocide, is Robert Nicholson. He's the president and executive director of the Philos Project. Robert, welcome to Washington Watch. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Congressman.
Well, listen, let's begin. This is probably one of those topics that most of our listeners are not don't know a great deal about. Let's begin with where this region is and what we're talking about in general.
That's a great place to start. Most people don't know. Armenia is a small country, a landlocked country between Turkey, Azerbaijan, Iran, and Georgia and Russia. not the best neighborhood in the world. This is a majority Christian country, a completely Christian country, surrounded on three sides by majority Muslim countries. Armenians, if listeners don't know, were the first nation to convert as a whole, en masse, to Christianity in 301. This is before the Roman Empire became Christian. And that land is much smaller than the Armenians' homeland, which used to cover most of what's now Turkey. But it's what's left after a pretty horrific genocide that happened against the Armenian Christians just about 100 years ago.
So what's going on now? Why are the Christians there now in such a dire situation?
We have two allies in the region on either side of Armenia, Turkey and Azerbaijan. And these two allies are Turkic countries, majority Muslim countries, who for a long time have had tense relations with the Armenian Christians between them. The Turks were, in fact, the perpetrators of the genocide. And these days, Azerbaijan is claiming that the Armenians are not rightfully living in their homeland. They should be part of Azerbaijan, a disputed area between these two countries called Nagorno-Karabakh, they believe is rightfully theirs, and they are surrounding and systematically trying to squeeze these Christians out of that land now for 9 months. A 9-month blockade, no food, no medicine, energy supplies have been cut off. And we're calling on our government and Christians who care about these things to push for a removal of that blockade and a delivering of aid to the Christians in need.
Yeah, so let's speak to that further. What needs to happen right now? What specifically are you calling on our federal government to do, and what can we do to help create some momentum, some movement here?
Well, one of the most important things that we're calling on is Christian leaders. And I'm talking now about national leaders, about local leaders, pastors, people working in the secular sphere, to be talking to their elected officials about this situation and asking them to pressure the Biden administration to do something about it. The Biden administration has talked a good talk. They have not walked much of a walk. And what's really needed is President Biden and our State Department to call the dictator of Azerbaijan and tell him that enough is enough. And unfortunately, while the Democrats have been quite good on this issue, the Republicans have actually been missing in action for the most part. And Christian leaders, largely because they don't know the issues, they haven't heard about the situation, have not been speaking out. And I think that's really the missing piece. Christian leaders need to speak out and demand our government to do something about it.
Yeah, you bring up a great point that so many people don't know about this situation. Why is it, do you think, Robert, that there has been so little media coverage about this? Is there is there something behind the scenes that the media just does not want to cover something that involves Christians, or what is the reason? I mean, 120,000 people being starved to death is big news. Why is it not getting coverage?
There are a couple of things. One, you mentioned, there's some reluctance, describe it however you will, to cover persecuted Christians. I've seen this now in this work for years. Another part of it is the Azeri and Turkish lobby, which has bought off a lot of the media, some of the government. Part of it also is just the mood of America right now. We are not, as a people, Democrat or Republican, in much of a mood to do more abroad. There is a huge debate right now about Ukraine and whether we're doing the right thing there vis-a-vis Russia. And the idea that we should care about, do something about a small country that we haven't heard that much about strikes a lot of people as just a bit too much. Now, what they don't know, and this is maybe the most important point, is that the first, biggest, most successful international religious freedom effort that was ever done in the United States was led by Christians and was directed towards specifically Armenians. During that period of genocide, it was the American Christian community from top to bottom, every denomination, that rallied behind a couple of NGOs to provide aid. They raised the equivalent of $1 billion in today's money, helped 1 million refugees, saved 132,000 orphans whose parents had been killed in the genocide. And I've met the descendants of those people living today. We've done this before. We've forgotten about it. It's just a matter of remembering our connection with this ancient Christian community and remembering that we have the wherewithal to do something about it.
Robert Nicholson with the Philos Project, thank you so much for your work and for keeping us informed of what's going on there with the Armenian Christians. Thank you for joining us on Washington Watch.
Thanks so much.
All right, friends, listen, we're going to call many of you, most of you are probably going to be in a church, a place of worship this weekend. This will be a great issue to make a matter of prayer for other believers around the world. All right, coming up, one of the co-founders of Moms for Liberty will join me about how they have been targeted by the Southern Poverty Law Center and what they're doing to push back. Stick around. We'll be right back.
All of us are born with the desire to find truth and meaning. Where did I come from? What happens when I die? While our answers to these questions may divide us, we are united in our need for the freedom to answer life's biggest questions and make life's biggest decisions for ourselves. That's why religious freedom matters for everyone. Religious freedom matters because the powerful have long wanted to control those who are less powerful. Religious freedom matters because the freedom of those who are different is often threatened by those who believe different is dangerous. Leah Sheribu, a Christian teenager in Nigeria, remains a captive of Boko Haram for her refusal to renounce her Christian faith. Chinese pastor Wang Yi is serving a 9-year sentence for speaking publicly against the Chinese government. All of this because people in power decided different is dangerous. At the Center for Religious Liberty at Family Research Council, we promote religious freedom for everyone because the only alternative is religious freedom for no one. We encourage Americans and the American government to engage and advocate for the persecuted, and they do. We work every day to bring good news to the afflicted, to proclaim liberty to captives and freedom to prisoners. We do it because that's what Jesus does. We work to give freedom to others because we ourselves have been set free.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Washington Watch. I'm Jody Heiss, your host, and an honor to have you on board with us on this Friday edition. All right, the 2023-24 school year has begun, as we all know, and right along with it, the radical agendas of the left continue to infiltrate our schools and challenge parental rights and a host of other things. And of course, the Family Research Council is on the front line of these and so many other issues, but we're fighting to empower parents and at the same time to protect our kids. But we need your help. And so I'm going to ask you if you would take just a real quick moment and take our Protect Students survey and share your thoughts on how you believe the LGBT ideology is impacting our schools and impacting our children as well as parents and across the board. And we want to help policymakers as well as parents push back. We want to give some effective tools to do so. And so this survey is going to help us kind of fine tune that method. So to take the survey, just simply text the word survey to 67742. Survey, S-U-R-V-E-Y, to 67742, or you can visit our website, frc.org/student survey. All right. After the COVID-19 pandemic prompted many schools to switch to remote learning and mandatory masking and all that sort of stuff, parents with children in public education were able to witness in person just how short-sighted and destructive those policies were and how they were hurting children. And out of that came movements like Moms for Liberty. They came about in 2021. And that organization, Moms for Liberty, has expanded to include hundreds of chapters across almost every state across the country. And that growth, quite frankly, has been upset by the morally bankrupt Southern Poverty Law Center, which targeted this group in its annual Year in Hate and Extremist report that came out this past June. Well, I think we all know that probably the most dangerous thing anyone can do is upset a mama bear or mess with a mama bear. And hopefully that's a lesson that the SPLC is about to learn. But joining me now to discuss this is Tiffany Justice. She's a former school board member and the co-founder of Moms for Liberty. Tiffany, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's our honor in every way. You know, I should note that the SPLC has had a long, shaky, we'll put it that way, relationship with the Family Research Council. We've been on their hate list along with a lot of other respected conservative groups for a long, long time. So you're in good company, but I know it's upsetting. We've all been through this. So I want to give you an opportunity to set the record straight. So let's begin with just your response to the claims that have been made by the SPLC in their report as it relates to Moms for Liberty.
It's just absurd. It was shocking to see the anti-government extremist designation put on us. I've shared, I called my daughter to let her know that it had been done because I wanted her to make her aware of it. I know the Family Research Council has been, hurt by the designation in many ways and had this incited someone to action in a way that was very scary. And so when I called her and told her, she looked it up online and she said, "Mom, they put you next to the United Skinhead Nation." And so that's just the level of ridiculousness. The idea that Moms for Liberty is an anti-government extremist organization is ridiculous. As I said, we endorsed in over 500 school board races in 2022 and helped get 275 people elected to office. 76% of those people had never run for office before. And so it's a whole new group of people running and serving in elected office. And I can't think of anything really that America needs more than that right now. So it's upsetting, though. There's no doubt.
It is, and there's no doubt that this has an impact on Moms for Liberty. It has a negative impact, and I'm sure you've experienced that to some extent across the various chapters in the states where you're represented.
We have. I mean, there's no doubt any article that's written about us, the designation is mentioned normally in the first few paragraphs. That's intentional. The SPLC has done this in order to try to damage our organization, as they have done to many other organizations. And it's concerning. There is absolutely no doubt about it. It's also put a target on the back of every American mom and dad. And it's one more step, I think, to try to chill speech. We saw the Biden administration working with the NSBA and the Department of Justice to weaponize the federal government, the premier law enforcement agency, the FBI, against parents, naming parents domestic terrorists for speaking out at school board meetings. I had the opportunity to testify in front of the Constitution and Limited Government Subcommittee because one of our moms was contacted by an FBI field office. These are things that Americans would never think would happen here in the United States.
Absolutely. All right, Tiffany, listen, we've only got about a minute. So real quickly, you're pushing back. Tell us what you're doing to push back against SPLC.
Well, we're pushing back by continuing to be joyful warriors around the country, continuing to look for good candidates to run for school boards, endorse those candidates. Our chapters are involved in their communities. They're unifying, educating, and empowering parents to defend their parental rights at all levels of government. You go to momsforliberty.org and check us out. There's a big map there. You can click on the map to start a chapter or to find a chapter near you. You're correct. We have 300 chapters now in 47 states. We just added Idaho with over 130,000 members. And we're exploring legal action because we believe that the SPLC should be held accountable as an organization that is trying to hurt the American people.
Absolutely. Well, we will be keeping a pulse on it, Tiffany, and know that you've got friends here at FRC. Tiffany Justice, Moms for Liberty, thank you for joining us on Washington Watch.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, friends, coming up after the break, we're going to be talking about the ongoing battle over parental rights in California. There's a lot to report on there, so stick around. You don't want to miss it. We'll be back right after the break.
It begins here, and here, and here. Every day. Before you stand, you need solid ground. Standing in a culture that wants you to surrender the truth won't work unless you have a firm foundation. At Family Research Council, we have that firm foundation, and you can find us standing. We stand for the value of all human life. We stand for the right of families to flourish. And every day we stand for your freedom to believe and to live out those beliefs both at home and abroad. We work with government officials, educating them on the issues from a biblical worldview. And when necessary, we hold them accountable. We equip Christians across America to be informed and to take action in their communities. With our daily radio program, television appearances, and vast online presence, we reach people where they are. We envision an America where all human life is valued, families flourish, and religious liberty thrives. And that won't be realized if we're not standing. Stand for faith. Stand for family. Stand for freedom. Stand with us at FRC.
I'm often asked by people, Tony, how do you stay encouraged? How do you deal with all of the stuff in Washington, D.C., the negative policies that are attacking our faith, our family, and our freedoms? Well, you want me to let you in on the secret? It's called the Word of God. And that is why the Family Research Council embarked on Stand on the Word, a 2-year journey through the Bible. It's a chronological Bible reading plan with just 10 to 15 minutes a day. In 2 years, you will have covered the entire Bible. And to go along with this, Monday through Friday, I do a morning devotional that goes along with the reading of the day. It's all designed to encourage you on this journey because the Word of God, as the psalmist said, in my affliction, here's my comfort. Your Word gives me life. That is our source of strength. To find out more, go to TonyPerkins.com or frc.org/Bible. And I invite you to join me every morning for our Stand on the Word Bible devotion.
This fall, believers from across America will gather in our nation's capital. We'll hear from government leaders, policy experts, and leading Christian voices, learning how we can engage in government at every level, from local school boards to state legislatures to Congress and even the White House, to win back the soul of our nation. Join with us for the Pray, Vote, Stand Summit. Believe and engage, September 15th through 17th. Register now at PrayVoteStand.org.
FRC, celebrating 40 years with Senator Ted Budd.
I just want to thank you for what you all do each and every day. You're digging deep on these issues. You really help articulate things that help us with policy here and help us communicate to the folks back home that send us to Washington. So thanks for the fight that you're in, and we're in it with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Senator Ted Budd from North Carolina. We appreciate those kind words. And listen, friends, we're less than a week away from this year's Pray, Vote, Stand Summit in Washington, D.C. We would love to have you come join us September 15th through 17th. And listen, we've been in this battle a long time, standing for faith, family, and freedom. And this is, of course, our 40th year anniversary. But now is the time for all of us to engage together. Our country, there's so much at stake. So we're going to be working together and talking, discussing how we can unite forces to have a huge impact. You can register right now or find out more information at PrayVoteStand.org, PrayVoteStand.org, and we encourage you to do so. All right, the battle over parental rights in California. That battle continues to rage. And yesterday, the Orange Unified School District became the latest school district in California to revise its notification policy in order to support the fundamental rights of parents so that they be informed of, so that they be involved in important aspects of their child's education. But that's an idea that the left finds destructive or discriminatory. They even refer to it as dangerous. Simply letting parents be informed and involved is dangerous, but it's really the complete opposite of those types of things. Here to talk with me further about this is a member of the Orange Unified School District's Board of Education, Madison Miner. Trustee Miner, welcome to Washington Watch. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, it's our privilege to have you. All right, let's first talk about the revised policy. Walk us through that.
So we had our first reading of this policy last month, and one of our trustees, Ms. Rumsey, had a couple of issues with the policy. She did not like that it was the teacher's responsibility, according to the former policy, to discuss with families and with parents if their child maybe had an action that they wanted to take with their gender dysmorphia. And so she wanted that to be the administrator's duty. And there was also the timeline. It was 3 days listed in our former policy, and she wanted it to be a little bit longer. We do have a lot of working parents in our school district. And so out of respect for those working parents, and also the fact that it's hard to schedule with parents sometimes, even when it comes to something important, when it comes to their child's education, we wanted to be respectful of that. So we extended the timeline to 5 days, giving the administrator 5 days to contact the families and have that discussion with them. And then we increased my headphone dropped, sorry. And then we increased we changed it from being the teacher that contacts the administrator, or that contacts the parents, to the administrator that contacts the families.
Well, yeah, I think it's important to know that the policy does have some exceptions. If a child's life is certainly in danger, that's one thing. But you would get the impression, an average person would, that the state of California thinks that parents in general are dangerous. They've made it sound as though there's an epidemic of parents out there who are just waiting on bated breath to harm their children. Why this attitude from the state of California?
I don't understand. I don't understand why there's been such a shift in parental rights being stripped away. I don't understand why our 14th Amendment is being kind of mocked and stepped on in California. But I'm so grateful that this policy passed, because it is our fundamental right as parents to be notified. I mean, it's a simple notification of change, right? It's not stopping that child from making that change. It's just asking the families to be involved and to come alongside their student and love them through this situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think really a bigger concern ought to be that these schools really are teaching the children how to lie to their parents. I mean, that ought to be a big concern. And thank goodness for policy reversal and your courage to be a part of that. And look, there's no doubt there's a lot of great teachers out there. We all know that. A lot of great teachers, counselors, all this type of things who really care about students, but none of them care about these students and children like the parents do. They just simply can't. And so for you to stand in the gap for parents is huge. All right, you've had a lot of emails. Last question. No doubt you've had a lot of emails and communications over the last couple of weeks about this policy. And there was a public comment yesterday. From what you've heard, what points really stood out?
I listened to both sides. I listened there were 122 speakers that spoke about our item 7A, which was our parent notification policy. and hearing both sides and hearing the for and against statements, I empathize with both sides. I just stand firmly, and I believe that this is an important issue, and making sure that, you know, these families are heard is so important. Making sure, first and foremost, that our children are protected, because, you know, according to statistics, it's 82% chance that a child that has some sort of a gender dysmorphia, where they're uncomfortable in their the gender that they were assigned at birth, that they have an 82% suicidality rate. If that's the case, then these students need to be protected. And, you know, the counselor and the teacher and the administrator, as much as they, you know, love.
All right, thank you, Trustee Madison Minor. You froze up. We lost you there, but thank you for coming on the program with us on Washington Watch. I do want to continue our focus on California, and I want to go now to the first school district in the state of California to revise its parental notification policy, and that is the Chino Valley Unified School District. And because they were the first district, they have drawn a lot of fire from the opposition, including California Attorney General Rob Bonta, who literally filed a lawsuit against the school district. Well, this week, a San Bernardino County Superior Judge granted the Newsom administration's request to temporarily block the policy from taking effect. But the fight is not over. And joining me now to talk about this is Sonia Shaw. She's the president of the school district's Board of Education. Sonia, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to see you again.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, the fight's not over. That is absolutely right.
Yeah, it's not over. And you and your board started this whole thing in California. It's got to be satisfying to see this movement growing, isn't it?
It's absolutely satisfying, but it's encouraging. And it's just so encouraging to see all the other bold and courageous school board members being supported by the communities that they serve in, saying, hey, we want you to stand up. We know that they've thrown bullying tactics, employees all over Chino Valley, but we want you to stand strong and do the right thing. And to see them do that, absolutely a huge blessing.
It really is. And, you know, again, it just reminds me the impact, the rippling effect that takes place when someone stands for the right thing and sticks their neck out on the line, so to speak. And so to you, again, and all of your board, thank you for doing so. The California Attorney General has made a lot of claims regarding the policy that y'all have put forth. And I have a couple of those comments that I want to play for you and then allow you to set the record straight. So let's begin with a comment made earlier this week. Play clip number 3, please.
If they want to violate the law and do everything in their power to hurt children, that's on them. But we will be there to stop them, to protect children, to enforce the law, to make sure that the civil rights and constitutional rights of Californians are protected.
All right, your reaction.
You ready? Okay, my reaction is I'm literally... He's giving us gifts on a platter. He's talking about constitutional rights, yet stripping parents' constitutional right in the upbringing of their child. When he's talking about privacy laws and guidelines, he's citing new law. Those new laws will have to go through the process, and he's trying to make them new law by just dictating it. We all know that the privacy laws put in place for children. I'm a soccer mom, and I could tell you, I don't study law, but I know enough to read exactly what it says. It says that children are protected with their privacy from third party and government officials like him. So for him to use it against parents is absolutely disturbing, but I think it's a gift to show everybody we don't need these kinds of people in office because they're trying to break up the family unit. He makes it very clear. So I think I'm actually embarrassed for him that he is trying to make new law the law. It's like, come on, dude, you're supposed to uphold the law. You're letting criminals walk free, but yet you're now trying to cite new law and harass and bully parents. Absolutely disturbing that we're in this.
It really is, and I love your attitude with this. And that's what you mean when you say this battle's not over. It's still got a long ways to go. I want to play another clip and get your reaction. I actually made a little bit of reference to this a little bit earlier, but here's what the AG said last month when he announced the lawsuit against your school district. Play clip 4, please.
This policy is destructive. It's discriminatory, and it's downright dangerous. It has no place in California, which is why we have moved in court to strike it down.
Unreal. Those are 3 strong words used. Your reaction?
He's downright dangerous to families, to students. He's destructive, and he has no place in California, and his time's limited. He just gave us another gift. We now know what he's about. He's trying to destroy the families. He's trying to tell parents, I get to choose because I'm the dictator of what your child, what we're able to tell you about your child. And right there and then, I'm sorry, Bonta, your time's limited and it's almost up.
Yeah, when he says words like your policy, which is, again, just a policy to inform parents. I mean, absolutely. How dangerous, discriminatory, destructive, unbelievable that this type of attitude would even exist, let alone that it would come out in public and be directed toward you. Okay, Sonia, I know our time, we've got about 3 minutes left. What's ahead? You said the battle's not over. What's ahead for this, and how can we, our viewers and listeners, how can we be supportive in prayer and otherwise as you go forward? So what's next?
What's next? The battle's just begun. We know we're not going to win these little small things in California. The judge himself said he didn't even read the judgment, yet he made a judgment. That's embarrassing too, but it shows you where we're at. I would tell everybody the line has been drawn. Stick with it. Stay strong. Be bold and courageous. Do not give up on these little defeats. These are actually gifts to bring more soldiers to the battle. So I would say here, we're going to stick up for our kids. They're going to learn the biggest lesson of their lives. We're talking about education and families. Right now, we're going to show them that you do not give up, regardless of the bullying tactics, and you are worth the fight. Our children are worth the fight. So right now, keep uniting. Please pray for protection with the death threats and the other things that come along with it. Look, those are daily reminders of the battle that we're in, but they're also daily reminders of how important our children are for the enemy. So I would say stick with it, stay strong, be bold and courageous. Trust me, we're going to win this. I know because God already went before us and he already won this battle.
That is great. Yeah, and speaking of prayer, speaking of praying, you are going to be at our Pray, Vote, Stand Summit next week, and we're really excited to have you joining us. We're looking forward to that. But, overall, Sonia, we're wanting this event to encourage people, and we're wanting to, at the same time, help equip them to make an impact in their various spheres of influence, just like what you were talking about. So why is it so important right now, this being the time for people to get engaged in our nation?
Right now, I feel as it's the inflection point. We're never going to get this opportunity. Have you ever seen government bullies and dictators respond to us like they have right now? Have you ever seen them actually just expose themselves? God is revealing and exposing these people. Right now, we have a chance to keep continuing to link up. Everyone thinks, oh, not me, not me. All God is waiting for is your yes. So if you say yes, he'll give you the way. He definitely calls the unqualified. I am proof for that. Trust me. We need more people to lead alongside us and keep linking arms. I would say, do not be discouraged. God's given you a gift, and now it's time to use it.
Well, I tell you, we just absolutely can't wait to have you at the summit. It is a great opportunity for people to see and hear and meet people like you who have stood in the gap and are making a difference just by being courageous to stand for that which is right. So we look forward to it so much. Sonia Shaw, thank you so much for joining us again on Washington Watch. Always great to see you.
Thank you. It's an honor.
All right, friends, that wraps up our time from this Friday edition of Washington Watch. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. Hope you're able to go to church. Encourage people to pray for some of the things we've mentioned today. God bless you. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Washington Watch with Tony Perkins is brought to you by Family Research Council and is entirely listener-supported. Portions of the show discussing candidates are brought to you by Family Research Council Action. For more information on anything you've heard today, or to find out how you can partner with us in our ongoing efforts to promote faith, family, and freedom, visit TonyPerkins.com. Also, to leave a comment about Washington Watch, call our watch line at 1-866-372-7234. That's 1-866-372-7234.